Hey guys, Marsinged here, bringing you a Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle video, and so today we're going to be taking a look at the GT Super Saiyan Goku that just got his EZA alongside the Int Vegeta. We're trying him out on the Vegito 220 team for now, because I want to try these guys, showcase them individually, and then we'll do a run with them on the giant Ape Power team versus another event. So, just like the Vegeta, he greatly raises attack and defense for one turn, does immense damage with his super. He also massively lowers defense, which isn't necessarily anything that important, but he gets attack and defense 250 and changes a random key sphere to rainbow, same as Vegeta. When attacking with 12 or more key, he gets 30% attack, 20% defense, and chance to crit 10% per key sphere obtained. So basically he gets a little bit more attack and a little bit less defense than Vegeta, and then he gets crit chance instead of damage reduction. With 3 or more orbs obtained, his attacks are effective against all types. And with 5 or more orbs, he gets a guaranteed additional super. Then per GT Heroes or Giant Ape Power ally on the same turn, he gets 77% defense and 20% damage reduction. So this makes having the Giant Ape Power allies for him, I think, way more important than it does for Vegeta. Because Vegeta gets his damage reduction by the orbs he picks up, whereas Goku, like we've got on this starting rotation, no GT Heroes or Giant Ape Power allies, because we've had some bad luck with the start. Which means he's not getting any of that, and he relies on the allies for getting the extra defense, because on a turn where you are going to have 2 GT Heroes or 2 Giant Ape Power, because remember, if you have 1 of each, you just get 1 proc of the buff, but by having 2 on the rotation with him, not only is he getting 154% extra defense, which is quite a lot, he has 40% damage reduction, and he can't get any from picking up orbs, right? On his first turn, he gets a guaranteed additional super, and then the 350 attack, just like Vegeta, but he gets a guaranteed crit. So they gave Goku a guaranteed crit for his active skill, but not Vegeta for some reason. So yeah, as you can see, start of turn 1, we got 360k. I mean, to be honest, that's pretty good start of turn defense, considering we don't have any GT Heroes or like Giant Ape Power allies on the rotation. So that's actually not bad. And then we can get 7 orbs here, okay. So we'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll just grab those for you. So we should be okay with the Rainbow Goku friend, because it's turn 1, right, with the extra damage reduction and everything. But yeah, I mean, just like the Vegeta, these guys don't stack, so they're never in a situation where, like with some of these units on the team, when we have multiple stackers, it's like when you run the 10th year and the 7th year LRs on the same team. And you're going to have to make decisions on certain turns of like who actually gets to attack, and so then it's like who actually gets their stacks. Whereas with these guys, like they do need to super attack a certain number of times to use their active skill, but outside of that, like they're not stacking anything permanently by attacking, so it's not the end of the world if you're only getting off like 1 super with them and then the boss is dead for that phase, right? So we've got 18.5 for the initial super. Jumps up to 19.8. We did get the crit, because obviously we got a decent amount of orbs, so very high crit chance for this turn. But yeah, just like the Vegeta, I mean, both of these units kind of fulfill the same role, even though they have these different abilities, because even though Vegeta is probably, I would say, stronger defensively than Goku, because it's a lot easier to get like the extra defense and the damage reduction and stuff for him through the orbs rather than relying on the allies, they both still fulfill the same role, because even though Vegeta can get that extra defense and the damage reduction, it all procs when he attacks. Like same with this guy with the attack and the crit chance. It's all when attacking with 12 or more key, you get this buff per orb obtained. So it's not like, even though Vegeta is the better defensive option, I would say, it's not like you could put him in slot 1 against some of these tougher bosses, right? So let's go ahead, and what are you looking like here? You've still got the extra defense and guard for this turn, and 475k, so I think we should be fine to do this. So we'll do that. Don't really care too much about getting the crit for Gotenks, but we will get the extra super, and then we'll go ahead and do this. Try and get the setup so we can actually have like the full, oh okay, so get the setup so we can actually have the full like GT Heroes rotation. Whereas GT Heroes and Giant Ape Power. That's the funny thing about running like the Super Saiyan 3 to Super Saiyan 4 Goku and the LR Super Saiyan 4s, is obviously they are both GT Heroes and Giant Ape Power, so they fulfill the conditions regardless. I was trying to think for like other characters to put on this team, but like the GT, the team doesn't really have a lot of GT heroes, like on its own specifically, like who aren't Giant Ape Power, doesn't really have a lot of like meta relevant units at the moment. Giant Ape Power does have like the tech Giant Ape Vegeta, although he'd only get the 170 lead from the Vegito leader skill. So obviously for these guys, the ideal setup for them really is just the Giant Ape Power team. But I wanted to do the initial showcase on a different team, because whilst we are also still getting the 220% leader skill, it's a slightly different team build. Obviously the Tech Vegito or AGL Gogeta, depending on which way you want to run it for the certain units to get the full leader skill, is one of the best setups in the game. But of course, only one of the GT Super Saiyans can get the full leader skill if you're running Vegito or Gogeta. One of them can get the 220, the other one will only be getting the 170. So, as I said at the beginning, we will be trying out the Giant Ape Power team with both of them on the team. The new Goku, the 7 years, Tech Great Ape Vegeta, and then I think the AGL Limit Breaker Vegito. Maybe even like... It's funny because he doesn't have his EZA yet until potentially some point later this year. But the AGL... the Int Super Saiyan 4 Gohan is actually a fairly decent like filler option for the Giant Ape Power team for certain events, because like post Super, his defense, I think we used him for the Giant Ape Power mission for the Red Zone like Blue Vegeta boss, but that boss, it's a little bit easier to use some units who are kind of on the fence, because we know he always supers in slot 1. So even when that Vegeta was fully built up, Gohan post-supering could tank his normals for double-digit damage, because he has his own damage reduction, and then obviously with the way we run the Giant Ape Power team by having both the Gokus on rotation, that's an extra 10% damage reduction and some extra defense as well. So he was perfectly fine for tanking normals, but when you jump into different harder events where the character is not necessarily going to super attack in slot 1 all the time, a unit like Int Gohan before his EZA probably is going to get clapped by a big super from one of the harder hitting bosses, if that boss does indeed then super in slot 3. So I think Vegito is probably a good way to go with the damage reduction. Longer events obviously will be tricky, because once that damage reduction runs out, he's not particularly good defensively, especially again when it comes to supers. But Giant Ape Power, I mean, obviously, you know, with the Dimer stuff, we're expecting more buffs for Giant Ape Power to come this year. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out for the team. So he did super, didn't he, right? So if we go ahead and do this, then we can get 7 orbs for you. We should probably save the green one so we can get a bit of a heal here. You've been in battle for 3 turns. Yep, so you've still got the damage reduction. It is for 3 turns, isn't it? Yeah, 50% damage reduction for 3 turns. Right, so we'll do that. Alright, so because we floated off the LR Super Saiyans, once they come back around again, we will have a full GT Heroes rotation. But let's see what we're looking like here with just these guys. Obviously, by putting Goku in slot 1 as well, getting that 44% buff for all allies on the super attack effect. So we picked up a, what was it, a 7 orbs, so Goku 20.9, basically 21 million here. And then by having that decently high crit chance, the type disadvantage doesn't matter too much here. 22 on the additional. Although, of course, he gets effective against all types with a certain number of orbs collected anyway, so it doesn't really matter too much. And then, yeah, tanking for double digits. I mean, he's in a similar boat to Vegeta when it comes to post-super defense. Although Vegeta's will be higher because he gets that 10% extra per orb. But with the right allies, Goku can get the damage reduction for free, right? Because Goku can get 40% damage reduction by having the 2 allies. For Vegeta to get 40% damage reduction, you have to pick up like 14 orbs, which is very uncommon. So even though Vegeta's post-super defense is going to be higher, Goku does kind of get that damage reduction for free if the right allies are on the rotation. So that does work out quite nicely. How do we want to do this? I guess realistically we just want to get back to the Goku turn, so Just go ahead and do this. And then we'll fuse Gogeta on that turn as well. I'm not going to use Gogeta's active skill here because I already know from previous runs that like Tech Gogeta can solo these guys, even though they have a ridiculous amount of HP. Tech Gogeta can solo them on like the active skill turn, like the double active skill turn, because he gets such a ridiculous buff from Gogeta and then the actives. Well, actually, I think that was... Did he solo him? Was that yesterday during the Accelerated Battle mission video? Or not mission, the Accelerated Battle team video, using the double Glorio leads. So Vegeta is only on a 170, but because we had so much support, like double Glorio, Daima Goku from the previous turn, Super Saiyan 4 Goku with his super attack effect, like, yeah, Vegeta on the double active skill turn, his and AGL Gogeta's, just killed these guys in one turn, which is absolutely ridiculous. By the time we got to the final counters of the turn, like one counter, which obviously was guaranteed crit because of the active skill, one counter was doing an entire bar of their HP. And these guys have a lot of HP. Like, you can see how much we're doing here now at first, right? So we're up to 7 million, and we're doing, what? That's a chunk that's maybe like a fifth of their bar or something. But yeah, he was at the point where the final counters were doing a whole bar each. So do check that out if you haven't seen it, the Accelerated Battle team video that I put up yesterday. Double Glorio leads, then we got like the Daima Goku, Daima Vegeta, the 10th anniversary LRs, and then Super Saiyan 4 Goku for that buff. And that team just is ridiculous. Even though so many of the, like the 10 years are only getting the 170 lead, like so much support on the team just makes them all go absolutely crazy. But yeah, we're going to have the two allies for Goku, so I'm interested to see what his start of turn defense is going to be. Bearing in mind, on the turn 1 we saw where we had no GT Heroes or Giant Ape Power allies, it was still about 350k, which of course, again, nothing special at all, kind of bad even. It means he can't be in slot 1, but obviously that's, you know, he's not a slot 1 unit. So we'll see what he's looking like here at the start of the next turn. Obviously, we've got the Super Saiyan 4 Goku, so he's buffing him with 70% defense and 10% damage reduction. Two allies on the rotation means the 40%, so he's got 50% damage reduction on this next turn. Hopefully we can get a good orb change. I mean, we're going to transform with Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, so we will get a rainbow orb change for the turn. So hopefully we can get a nice field of orbs for the GT Goku. So just keep hitting these guys with a bunch of counters. See, we're, even on this turn, we're still up to like basically doing 10 million damage counters, which is kind of ridiculous. If they super in slot 1 again, like, it's very possible that Goku doesn't even get to attack. We can use the active skill though. So the problem is, yeah, like, I don't think he is going to get to attack because we kind of need to do this, otherwise these guys can't really go in slot 1. I mean, can I get like the bare minimum orbs? I can get 5, but that probably still does too much damage, I don't know. But yeah, let's see Goku's active skill. Just like Vegeta's, obviously very, very good animation, has aged very well. See how much damage we do here. 15 million crit. I mean, it's not bad, but with the amount of HP bosses have now, it's not the craziest damage, of course. But yeah, so start of turn with the two allies, he's at 1.26 million. The only thing I don't get is the when attacking. I should have checked before, because when attacking with 12 key, he gets a buff based on the number of orbs obtained. But doing the active skill shouldn't do anything to that because we hadn't obtained any orbs. But by having these guys on rotation, he's getting 154% extra defense, 40% damage reduction, 70% more defense from Goku. Like, is that accurate? 1.26? I really should have looked before we did the active skill. I suppose, I guess we could reset just to see. It's my daily tweet for the getting the free stones, but Because, yeah, I don't think, because of the way, I'm not sure the way that works, but yeah, because the attack buff, it says when attacking with 12 key, which, even if he did have 12 key from the links, we hadn't picked up any orbs, so he shouldn't have got any sort of buff from doing the active skill. But yeah, I'm not sure. Because in theory, he wouldn't get any, right? Because even if using the active skill triggered that part of his passive, he's picked up 0 orbs. So that means he would get 0 buff, right? So let's see. Go back onto this turn. Throw you in the middle. Yeah, 526. And then we active skill with you. And then I grabbed, is it those? Yeah. Yeah, so he's basically doubled his, so how does that work? Because, yeah, he shouldn't get, nowhere in his passive does it say that he should get any sort of buff from doing his active skill in terms of defense. But his defense jumps up from 526k. Then we do the active skill. Bearing in mind he doesn't have 12 key. And now it's... Wait, what? Oh, because we picked up the... I was after I picked up the orbs. Wait, so does he... Oh, okay. Does he get the buff straight away because he's done the active skill? So that's interesting. So if you do the active skill, okay, so the way it works, the active skill doesn't trigger that part of his passive. But if you do the active skill and then you pick up the orbs, it does trigger that part of his passive straight away. Whereas normally when you pick up the orbs, if you then go back into the menu, your defense hasn't gone up because you haven't attacked. That's really interesting because I guess on certain turns, not against this boss necessarily because of how hard he hits, but in certain events where the bosses aren't hitting as hard, you could active skill with this Goku, pick up a bunch of orbs, and then he could go in slot 1. Because on this rotation, he has 50% damage reduction, thanks to the Goku and obviously having the 2 allies. So he would be able to tank, like, what, even like a 3 million damage super. 50% would drop it down to 1.5, and then he's got 1.2 million, like, defense. That's really interesting, that interaction. I've never seen that before. So... yeah, let me know what you guys think about that. That's certainly an interesting one. Yeah, using the active skill doesn't give him any kind of buff, but it activates that part of his passive for when attacking, but it kind of then just hangs there until you then pick up the orbs. Yeah, that's really interesting. Strange interaction. I did say when we saw their details, like, how does that work? Because when you use an active skill, it will proc parts of your passive that are, like, when attacking. But his is obviously when attacking with 12 key, get a buff per orb obtained. But when you use the active skill, you haven't obtained any orbs. So, it's definitely an interesting interaction with that kind of passive. But, yeah, I don't know if there's many situations where that would then come in useful for being able to put him in slot 1. But... you know, it is what it is. So hitting consistently around 20 mil, getting the crits, that kind of defense with the damage reduction and everything means he should be fine for the most part, especially, as I say, with the fact that he also greatly raises defense on super. And then if you are having him as a unit that's just kind of floating, because he doesn't have Saiyan Raw. So if you're using the Super Saiyan 4 Goku on rotation, you've probably got the LR Super Saiyan 4s, like 7-year in slot 1, and then on the other rotation the Great Ape Vegeta, and they all share Saiyan Raw, so they kind of want to stay together. So the GT Super Saiyans kind of end up just floating, which means it'll be longer until you can use their active skill, I guess, because they're going to get 3 supers on the first turn, if you get the orbs and they get that guaranteed one. Then they're coming back on turn 4, depending on how much damage you've done and what phase you're in. If they're still in slot 3, is it going to get all the way around to them and they still get to attack twice to then have the 5 supers done, ready for the next turn? So obviously we got like this rotation, they're absolutely not surviving this turn. So Yeah, that was the GT Goku. Let me know what you guys think of him. Who do you prefer, him or the Vegeta? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.